Welcome to Dynamic Studies. So today I'm dealing with Porter's approach to industry analysis of Class 8. So let's begin. Porter's 5-force model is an analysis tool that uses 5 industry forces to determine the intensity of competition in an industry and its profitability level. So in order to determine the intensity of a competition in an industry and also to understand the profitability level of an industry, the Porter's 5 forces model was introduced. Okay, so the Porter's 5 forces model was introduced, or it was created by Michael Porter in 1979 to understand how 5 key competitive forces are affecting an industry. Okay, so in order to understand how 5 key competitive forces are affecting an industry, Porter has introduced, or he has created, a 5-force model, okay, which is an analysis tool that uses 5 industry forces to determine the intensity of competition in an industry and along with the profitability level of the industry. Now these are the 5 forces identified by Michael Porter. So the first one is the threat of new industry, then comes the supply, that is the threat of new industry, then comes the supplier power, then comes threat of substitute buyer power, and then the competitive rivalry. Okay, so these comprises the 5 forces which is identified by Michael Porter. Okay, now let's move on to the first one, that is the threat of new entrant. Okay, so in this, the potential entrant is the major source of competition in the industry. So in the threat of new entrant, the potential entrant, okay, that is the entry of new competitors, is saying in this point. So the competition or the new entrants can be because due to the product range and the quality in product, capacity, etc. brought by them increases competition. So the difference in product ranges, the quality, the capacity of the product, etc., which induces for the new entrants. Okay, so if that happens, it will increases the competition. So these are the threat of new entrances. So the size of the new entrant plays a major role here. That is, if the size of the entrant is bigger, okay, if it is bigger, the more intense is the competition. That is, if the size of the entrant is bigger, then there is higher competition. Okay, so moreover, if there is higher competition, then the existing companies, that is the existing business, their prices is reduced and the overall profitability of the existing players is also affected with the entrance of new. Okay, so that is why it is mainly saying that there is a threat of new entrant, because when there is a new entrant, then the existing players' products price is getting reduced and the overall profitability of the existing players are also affected. How it is affected? With the entrance of new ones, that is with the entrance of the new competitors. Okay, so it analyzes the ease of entry to the new market. That is, if the entry is easy, then the level of competition in the industry is severe. That is, if the level of the entrance is easy, then it is saying that the level of competition in the industry is also severe. That is, it will also get very much affected. Now let's move on. How we can say that the threat of new entrant is high? The threat of new entrant is high when the low amount of capital is required to enter a market. That is, if a low amount of capital is required, then there is a high chance for new entrants. So there arises the threat of new entrants. Now the next point is the existing companies can do little to retaliate. That is, if the existing company cannot respond too much, then there is a chance for new entrant. If the existing firms do not possess patents, trademarks, or they do not have a reputed brand name, then also we can say that there is a chance for new entrant. So, and if there is no government regulations, if the customer switching costs are low, okay, then there is low customer loyalty. And if there is low customer loyalty, if the products are nearly identical, economies of scales can be easily achieved. If all these conditions is occurred, then there is a high chances for the threat of new entrants. Okay, now let's move on to the next force, that is the bargaining power of suppliers. So here the supplier is the kingpin, that is they have the complete power. So supplier also exerts substantial bargaining power over the firms. So how they use the power of, how the suppliers are using the bargaining power, because they threatening to increase the prices. If the suppliers is having that bargaining power, they will increase the price of the product, and likewise they will also reduces the quality of the product. They will degrade the quality of the product. Why? Because the suppliers have the bargaining power. Okay, so the strong bargaining power allows supplier to sell higher priced or low quality raw materials to their buyers. So the important point in here is that if there is a bargaining power of suppliers, the suppliers can sell their product at a high priced, okay, and with a degraded quality of products to the buyers. So this directly affects the buying firm's profit, because it has to pay more for materials. So if there is a bargaining power of suppliers, the condition here is that if there is a bargaining power of suppliers, then the suppliers can charge high price for their products, and they can also degrade the quality of the product. And apart from that, this will also affect the buying firm's profit, because it has to pay more money for materials to the suppliers. Okay, now the suppliers have strong bargaining power. When does a supplier have strong bargaining power? The supplier have a strong bargaining power when there are few suppliers but many buyers. If there is only a few number of suppliers but there are a large number of buyers, then there is a bargaining power of suppliers. If suppliers are large and threaten to forward integrate, then there is a chance for bargaining power of suppliers. Now there is only few substitute raw material exist, then there arises the bargaining power of suppliers. If the suppliers hold scarce resources, the cost of switching raw materials is especially high. In all these cases, there arises the bargaining power of suppliers. Now the next forces of Michel Portal, which discovered by him, is the bargaining power of buyers. Okay, now in the previous point we learned about the bargaining power of suppliers. Now here the next force is the bargaining power of buyers. What will happen if the buyers have the bargaining powers? Buyers have the power. If buyers have the bargaining power, then the buyers have the power to demand low priced or high product quality from industry producers when their bargaining power is strong. So this is the major difference between the bargaining power of suppliers and the bargaining power of buyers. In the supplier, we have learned that if the bargaining power is with the suppliers, then there is a high chances where the suppliers can increase the price of the product, and they can degrade the quality when they are supplying the goods to the customers, okay, or the final consumers. But in the case of the bargaining power of buyers, the buyers can demand low price products with a higher quality products, okay, from the industry producers when the bargaining power with the customer is high. So the lower price means lower revenue for the producers, okay, while the higher quality products usually raise production cost also. So it means that if there is a bargaining power of buyers, then the profitability to the producers and the revenue earned by the producer and the production cost, the revenue which is earned by the producer is low, and the production cost in order to produce the high quality product is also very much high. So both scenarios result in lower profit for the producer. So in the final, it means that if there is a higher bargaining power with the buyers, then there will be lower profit for the producers. Now, when does the buyer exert strong bargaining power? So the buyer is having a strong bargaining power when buying in large quantities or control many access points to the final consumers, when there is only a few buyers, when switching costs to the other suppliers are low, they threaten to backward integrate. If there is many substitute for a goods, then there is bargaining power of suppliers, and if the buyers are price sensitive, then also there is a chance for the bargaining power of buyers will also arise. Now that's about the bargaining power of buyers. Now comes the next force is the threat of substitute. Now what happens if there is a threat of substitutes? This force is especially, it means they're threatening when buyers can easily find substitutes products with attractive price or better quality, and when buyers can switch from one product or services to another with little cost. So threat of substitute means that when there is a threat for when there is a substitute for another product, the buyer will switch to that product if that product is giving much satisfaction to the customers in the term of price, quality, etc. Okay, so the switching from one goods to a better goods, that is known as threat of substitute if there is a substitute for that product. Okay, now for example, let's see that to switch from coffee to tea doesn't cost anything, unlike switching from car to bicycle. So it means that in the case of tea and coffee, if the price of the tea has increased, then they might switch to coffee because the coffee's price is lower and it is giving the same satisfaction to the customer. So they are switching to coffee instead of buying high priced tea. So this is the example of the threat of substitutes. Next force is the last force is the rivalry among existing competitors. It means that this force is the major determinant on how competitive and profitable an industry is. In competitive industry, firm have to compete aggressively. That is, it is in there. Okay, that competition is already, it is there in any form of business, competition exists. So in competitive industry, firms have to compete aggressively for a market share, which result in low profit. So rivalry among competitors is intense when it occurs when there are many competitors, when exit barriers are high, industry of growth is slow or negative, products are not differentiated and can be easily substituted, competitors are of equal size. If there is low customer loyalty, then also there exists rivalry among the competitors. So also these are the 5. So we have gone through the 5 forces of Porter. So these are the 5 forces which was introduced by Porter. Okay, in order to understand the industry forces, in order to understand or determine the intensity of competition in industry, the 5 forces model was introduced by Michel Porter. So although Porter originally introduced 5 forces affecting an industry, some scholars have suggested that there is not only 5 forces, but there is one more force, that is sixth force, that is complements. Okay, so complements increase the demand. So what does it mean? So complements increase the demand of the primary product. So if there is one more force like complement force, this will increase the demand of the primary product with which they are used, thus increasing firms and industries' profit potential. So the 6th force, that is a complement, if it is added, it means that it will increase the demand of the primary product, okay, and thus increasing the firms and industries' profit potential also. So for example, let's consider that iTunes was created to complement iPod and it has added value for both products. As a result, both iTunes and iPod sales increasing Apple's profit. So this is the example of complement. So it is saying that apart from 5 forces, some scholars have suggested that there is one more force, that is 6th force, that is complements. So it means that if complements is there, then there's a high chance to increase the demand of the primary product with which they are used, thus increasing the firms and industry profit potential. So this is about the Porter's approach to industry analysis. So let's brief, that is the Porter's 5 force model. It is actually an analysis tool that uses industry forces to determine the intensity of competition in an industry and its profitability level. So this 5 force model was created by M. Porter, that is Michel Porter, in 1979 in order to understand how the 5 key competitive forces are affecting an industry. So the 5 forces are threat of new entries, the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of buyers, the threat of substitution, and also the competitive rivalry. And some of the scholars has also added one more forces, that is complement. So this is all about today's topic. So if you have any doubts regarding the topic, please don't feel any hesitation to comment in the below section. Thank you.